Three, two, one, and we're in. How you doing, Harker?
I'm doing well. Easy traffic getting here, which is good for Friday in LA.
Yeah, Fridays in LA are supposed to be absolutely miserable. That's why I don't go out much.
That is totally fair.
But I wanted to thank you for swinging by. Obviously, we got connected a couple weeks ago and we planned this out, and I was so excited that you were actually in LA. And then but then I started reading a little bit more about you and realized that you kind of been here for a really long time, and you've done so many kind of incredibly creative things, like from magazine work to being an author to writing some screenplays. And I just,
Get the gay porn.
of course, absolutely. We've all had to dabble in that to get through school, but it was a long time ago. I guess this is the town for that too, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. I never put those two together for some reason, but yeah, we're on the right side of the hill for that. But yeah, no, I just wanted to chat with you because it seems like you've kind of had your finger on the pulse of like what's going on in LA, Hollywood, for like what, more than a decade at least.
Yeah, it'll be 25 years.
25 years as of May 1st.
Just kidding, obviously. But yeah, it's 25 years, so more than half my life.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's weird to think about it too, because I grew up in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
And so I think about like, well, the first like 15, 16 years are really concentrated in terms of you're just learning so much about the world and you're becoming of age and all that. So it almost seems that's more concentrated. So I feel like the time here has been not that concentrated
Mm-hmm.
because it's already an adult, you know what I mean?
It's funny, like those early days, like I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I was a Canadian, which is also a completely different trip. But you're right. Like, I don't know, there's something very like focused, and you feel like there's so much action and so many things happening kind of when you're growing up and learning what's going on. And then kind of adulthood is, I don't know, it has some pluses, but it can also be kind of a letdown.
Letdown after letdown after roadblock.
Especially in this town. This is LA is the town where people come to have their careers ended, right? I mean, it's either like you're the 1% and you're on a rocket ship, or you know, you're just flailing.
The fuse on your rocket died out.
I think SpaceX is based here too, or at least it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of space people here that came out of SpaceX, but I think he moved it to Texas with all the rest of his businesses.
I feel like I should know that, but I don't.
So, I mean, let's get into it. I mean, like, what was it like growing up in Michigan as a young man?
I grew up on a dirt road at a lake. The town I grew up in does not have a traffic light to this day.
Are you serious?
Our main intersection is a four-way stop. Still, yeah. It's lovely. It's so charming. And growing up there, I was like, oh, God, get me out of here. And now I'm not like, oh, those are the best days. Not like that, but I can appreciate that foundation.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having lived at the lake out in the country and then in a college town and then a big city, I feel like I've not done it all, but, you know, I have good perspective.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of people never, it's not just small towns either. Some people just never leave the city. And to everyone, don't you want to go places? Don't you want to do things?
Or try assimilating to like a different way of life in a different place. Yeah. I mean, that hit me hard when I was 22. I moved to China and I did 18 years in Shanghai. So like I needed, it was a long time, a few years too long maybe, but in the end it ended up working out. But it was great. I loved kind of learning about how to live in a different way in a different part of the world.
I've not done that.
No, it I don't know, like, you know how they say we only use like 10% of our brain or something like that? I feel like when you live in another country that speaks a different language with a totally different culture and a totally different history, I feel like it like activates different parts of your brain that are kind of like asleep.
Right.
Yeah, and it's kind of exhilarating. Like, I think that's why people like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of addicting. And eventually it gets tiring, and if you can work through that, it can be rewarding in different ways. But
Swings back up.
it's everything is just a pendulum.
Right. And it's always good to go home. Like, I like to travel, but God, when you're coming home, greeting the cat who's been bereft because I've been gone, and just I've been bereft because I've been away from her. And it's just there's something about going home too, knowing you're going to go someplace else again, of course, you know.
Yeah. So what was it like in Michigan, in your small town that doesn't have a traffic light? I mean, what was it like growing up there? Were you, I mean, like, what do you do in a town like that? Like, how do you pursue artistic and creative pursuits? How do you get into sports? How do you figure out what university you want to go to? I mean, it can be quite isolating, but also quite beautiful.
Right. Sports I know nothing about, so I can't speak to that at all.
Okay, so we've got that covered. No sports on this podcast at all. Got you.
But so we had like a theater department, so I was involved in that in high school, and there was an art class. I never like an artist like that. Like I can't draw stick figures. It's embarrassing to the point where I'm so bad. These are the paint and sip, the wine and the painting. They show you exactly how to do it. You're essentially, paint by numbers. I still can't do it to the point where people won't even be like, no, it's fine. Trying to be supportive for like,
just get him into another class.
But anyway, since I'm a writer, like that's all solo anyway.
And very isolating in a lot of ways too, right? Yeah.
So I didn't need anything more necessarily.
So when did you get that bug though?
About 13.
Okay.
Yeah, and it started with just a friend and I writing stories, and then it just expanded to plays and poems and some screenplays, which are terrible. Although it's kind of terrible, because I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just continued on. I majored in telecommunications and film and written communication with a minor in literature, which is a mouthful. And so it's telecommunications and film because I loved film so much.
Mm-hmm.
And people like, don't major in literature. Do you want to be a teacher? I was like, no. So I minored it because obviously that's one of the fun courses.
Yeah.
Just read and talk about it. I mean,
have you ever heard of John Mulaney? He's a famous comedian.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I can see his face.
Yeah. And he has this great thing that he went to Georgetown University, which is quite a prestigious college. Yeah. And for the international guests that are listening who might not know Georgetown, but he was all upset because his school had sent him a request to donate to some scholarship because he'd left university 20 years ago, but they're still asking him for money, and he was just pissed off and confused by the whole university experience because he majored in English, which was a language that he already spoke, right? And he makes a joke about the university charging him like $40,000 a year to teach him English, which is a language I already spoke, and now you're still asking me for money.
Decades later, you want more money.
Yeah, I love that. It's a good relation. He nailed the relationship between private universities and their students forever.
Right.
Yeah. What was telecommunications like?
Well, it didn't really do anything for me in the end because technology changes so fast.
Yeah.
And I didn't stick with that in terms of career or anything. So I didn't adapt to the technology.
Mm-hmm.
I would have no idea what to do now.
No.
It was fun when I did it.
Yeah.
A lot of it involved writing. So I was, fairly good at that, I guess.
And what was a literature course like in university? I never took a literature course in university. What kinds of stuff were you reading?
Short stories, a lot of short stories because we could get them we could read the short story then talk about it in the next class and another one. So we did a lot of that. We never did any novels. It's been so long. Did we do novels?
I cannot remember anything from those 4 years. Yeah.
But you just talk about the symbolism and things like that. And I remember thinking, what's this bullshit? Like the author was not thinking about the fact that she's wearing yellow does not represent that she's a coward or whatever. I'm making this up right now.
Right.
They weren't thinking about that. And then one of the teachers did cop to that at one point. The author or whoever meant some of this,
mm-hmm.
and the rest is subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be subconscious. It could be totally random. And we're finding things in there, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah, everyone has to read the text and pull from their own experiences, right? And they all have that. That's the beauty of art.
Right.
We all see it and feel it differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people message me, I get email the fan letters for my book. And sometimes they'll just have an insight, like, I never thought about that. And I wrote it.
Neat. Yeah.
And edited it for a really long time. And
that's beautiful, though. I love getting letters of positive feedback like that. Can be quite beautiful.
Yeah. I got one email. He was really angry. Like 2 weeks later, I was at the gym and it popped into my head. I was like, I should contact him, respond. Because I responded to everyone else, just saying, oh, thank you so much. It's very meaningful because it really is. But so I read the email again. He was just too angry. Like I shouldn't engage.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just to ignore. Yeah.
I still feel kind of bad about it, but maybe he's not so angry now.
One of my friends got an angry letter from someone once, and it actually changed the whole course of their life in a really positive way. And And I said, like, you should go back and find that letter that person wrote and thank them
Total.
for being such a fucking asshole, and be like, you helped me realize something that changed my career path, and without your temper and bullshit, I might have been another 6 months or a year or 2 years before I figured that out for myself.
Right.
Yeah. So
meaningful.
yeah, I always think like if someone comes at you with something super negative, like try to obviously spin something positive out of it. But if it's not really possible, it's funny when you look back, and if you have made a deviation in your path because of that, and it's been positive, then yeah, you should give them a shout out and say, hey, I didn't follow your instructions for what I should do, but your bitterness and anger helped me find something else in life, right?
Your bitterness and anger resulted in joy.
Your short-tempered general shittiness helped me define a new career path or something like that. So,
well, the book that I wrote, I'm working on the second one. I'm almost done with the second draft. It's very exciting. But it was inspired because right after college, I had this bout of unrequited love. And I sent an actual letter. I typed it up and had it delivered to him and telling him, because we talked at one point. So I was like, you'll know who I am, but you would never think about me again, aside from this letter. He was very nice. And he called me, made a really nice conversation. Never went anywhere. He was a bit similar. They turned out to be kind of an asshole. But probably just because he was young. I still wish him well. But he has no idea that his feelings inspire.
And this is your book, Until September.
Until September, yeah. It's a love story. So I was channeling all of those feelings into this, as, an artist does, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, an artist has to be kind of miserable all the time in order to draw on those feelings and emotions to put them into books, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And I'm in like these writers groups, like on social media, and I hardly ever respond. Sometimes there's something valuable. So many people are just wringing their hands like, oh, I'm not inspired. And I feel for them. To be constipated artistically sucks. At the same time, like, just go do something. It'll come when it comes. If you're pushing it, it's probably not going to be.
That's really true, actually, because I find like most artistic creations come when you're not necessarily, burning the midnight oil. They're pushing too hard. Like they come when you're relaxed. They come when you're thinking about other things. Yeah.
You're driving. You're in the shower. You're falling asleep. All those times, and that's when inspiration strikes. I think partially because you're not trying to push it. It's coming organically.
Yeah.
Just go live your fucking life. Go do shit. That's how you become inspired. That's how you can add to the fabric of whatever you're doing, whether it's sculpture or painting or whatever. Life is what inspires you. Sitting there wringing your hands in front of the computer, go do something. Anyway, I never say anything. I don't want to be a dick to these people.
I always have this, I never mention names, but I do kind of like attack genres from time to time. But I'm always fascinated by these like young singer-songwriters who kind of like become famous in their early 20s because they're depressed or they've had relationship problems or all this other stuff, and then they're super successful because like everyone can relate to them,
right?
Because we're all miserable in some way, shape, or form, right? And it's just like, just because you can't write a song like Taylor Swift means that you're not going to become famous for your misery.
Right. Exactly. You'll just wallow in it.
But then like once they hit their 30s and they like figure themselves out and they kind of calm down and they end up having like meaningful marriages or families or whatever, then they stop their music career because they've lost all their motivation to write because they don't have these like...
The angst is gone.
Yeah, like they're just not angry enough to write music anymore. Like I think there's something to that. Like you do have to have something going on that has to come out.
Right. You have to process it. You have to almost purge those emotions because they're not healthy emotions. I don't know if I should say healthy because, any emotion can be healthy. It depends how you react to it and how you process it. I mean, envy, like I can be envious of, that guy's car or whatever, but there's also envy where it eats away at you and gnaws at you. And that's dramatically different.
And makes you miserable in the process. Yeah. I was, I've had a chance to meet a lot of writers as well. And one writer, he went through a lot of trauma as a child and kind of just pushed it away. And then when he was in his 40s, it just ate at him, right? And what he did was he just started writing everything he could remember from his childhood. And he was like hundreds and pages later, like he kind of like therapeutically worked through it by like writing the story of his childhood, which was terrible in his words. and affected him very negatively. But then he said, like, once he wrote it all, it was like real, and then he could feel like it was something that he could like process because it now it was out in the open. It just wasn't in his head.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think psychiatrists, psychologists say this to people all the time. Write your things down.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it gets out. You need to write a letter to the person who wronged you. You don't even have to send it.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never done this. No one's ever told me to, but I've heard about this. And it makes a lot of sense just because it helps you purge it.
Yeah.
To some degree.
I had a buddy who broke up with a girlfriend once. This was, I think, in college, and he wrote a letter to her, like saying how much he loved her and he was sorry that their relationship didn't work out and stuff like that. And what he did was he didn't send it to her, but he just burnt it with all the other shit that she had given him, like letters and all these things, just to purge it and like end that chapter of his life so that he could start fresh. And I thought that was super healthy. Like that's a great thing to do instead of just holding all that shit in and looking at the letters and the love, like the Valentine's all the time and letting that trigger you and burn you every time. Yeah. Every time I walk past that letter. Yeah. Oh, it's twisted being an artist, isn't it? I mean, it's just, it can be grueling.
It can be. And I think artists, again, sculptors, painters, whatever, choreographers, like there's always something I think we're more sensitive to our feelings and more, I think so, more, let's say open, but aware of them. And then, so that automatically starts us on the road to processing. A lot of people don't even, like your friend with the trauma from childhood, maybe he wasn't even aware it was, I don't know, but things like that. And when you're an artist, we're so sensitive that we have to get it out in these ways.
Yeah, or else we kill ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, and there's. Yeah, I mean, my favorite writer. I mean, the writer that I most connected with in my early days was Ernest Hemingway, because he was such a traveler and because it seemed like he was someone who was like really experiencing life, even though he was writing fiction. There was a lot of autobiographical stuff in there. So I always kind of gravitated towards him. But yeah, eventually, he ended up taking his own life too. Yeah, it's not easy out there.
I was really surprised by some people were just really sexual. Some people were just lost and kind of bumbled into it. Some people, it was, like a business thing, a career. So like, people came to it for different reasons. But there were a fair number of suicides.
Oh, I bet.
More than, I honestly hadn't thought about it. So it's not like more than I expected, but like more than one would expect. It was sad.
Yeah, I can imagine. That'd be tough. So, okay, so you graduate in telecommunications and literature. And where were you geographically in the United States at that time?
In Michigan, in Ypsilanti, which is next to Ann Arbor.
Okay.
So when I say I grew up on a dirt road at a lake, it's very true. It was 20 minutes from my little town, but also 20 minutes from Ann Arbor.
Okay.
So once I could drive, I could, bop around Ann Arbor a lot, which is great.
Yeah, that's where University of Michigan is, right?
Yeah. I still feel a very strong pull to Ann Arbor. I don't want to move back.
Well, there you go, right? Just to go back in the summer times. In the winters, it's terrible. Yeah. Because I grew up in Toronto, which is just a few hours from Detroit, right? And it was same weather. Like once you get kind of like in the middle and amongst all the Great Lakes, it's just wet and cold and windy all the time.
Wind, especially like at the lake, just coming right off the flatness of it. Yeah.
So I mean, I can see why you wanted to leave Michigan, but what made you go to LA?
I was just always supposed to.
Yeah. When did you figure that out?
When I was a kid.
Yeah?
Yeah, 7, 8, I don't know. But basically, I always knew. I did not come here to write screenplays. I was just supposed to be here. First time I drove in, it felt like home, not quite like that corny, but it felt familiar.
Do you think that's because maybe like LA is just such a place where you can be free and build something from nothing because no one knows you, and it's just a town that, you can just start something and you don't know where it's not like an established ecosystem like in New York or even Chicago, like where everyone kind of knows everyone else. Like LA is just this wild place where anything can happen, it feels like. Yeah.
It's also, I say this to people all the time, LA is a small town. When social media came around, it's like, how do you know this person? Because I know them in such different ways. It's like, it's just a really small town, too. It's also very spread out.
Yes, geographically, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? The way it's all low rise and all, yeah, it is a kind of urban sprawl mess, isn't it?
Yeah, I think urban sprawl, that term came from here or about here. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I think so.
Yeah.
In Manhattan, there's an island. They had to build up.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to, or that, I wasn't there first. But, they could spread out because there was space. It's not.
No, I think part of that also too is like because of the earthquakes, right? Because it's we're in a seismic zone, right? So staying low is probably better. But then of course you look at downtown LA and there's 30, 40-story skyscrapers all over the place. So it's like
at one point I don't know who did this, but they realized they could put buildings on rollers, which sounds alarming to me. But it's safer because a building isn't necessarily like that with an earthquake. Obviously, but it's more of a rolling thing because the rollers is rolling, But it keeps the integrity of the building.
Okay. And that's something they do in LA. Oh, okay.
I don't know which buildings necessarily. I just remember I was applying for my job at Out. She was like, "No, we have rollers in the building, so feel safe." In terms of earthquakes, I was like, "Oh, that sounds weird." Like, I didn't think we'd go rolling down the street, but it seemed. I'm sure it's very safe.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm sure we'll be okay. But how old were you when you came out here?
Oh God, let's just say I was in my 20s.
Yeah, like right after school, like 22, 23, 24, something like that?
Yeah, I moved to Arizona for 2 years with a friend who was there. And so I spent 2 years there before I came here.
What was Arizona like? That grunt was enough, by the way. Next question.
It was beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful. I was in Tucson. It was not the right fit. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So I was there for 2 years. 1 year, just like, what the fuck did I get into? The second year is like, I'm getting out. So I said 2 jobs to save money and came here. And I don't know what lessons being there taught me, but I'm sure there are things that I would never be aware of. Just having been there, it was my first place really away from home, not just to Ann Arbor. I mean, thousands of miles away.
That first trip away by yourself is kind of nice, isn't it?
It was.
Yeah. It's like a newfound sense of freedom, even though it's just like a 4-hour flight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a flight.
Yeah.
My parents, not that they did this, but like couldn't just drop in. I also couldn't drop in back at the lake house. You're really on your own.
Yeah, no, that's great. I remember like I went to University of Toronto and I was and I ended up staying close to home because my family was also living in Toronto, and it was nice to kind of see them quite often because I was also playing sports, so they would come to the games and stuff like that. But I remember like when I went to China, I was like, wow, I'm really like on my own now.
Right.
And that was a beautiful experience, I think, because it really teaches you to like step up and take care of your own shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And what else is going to? And that's very far away.
Yeah.
That's not just Michigan to Arizona. Like, that's really far away and a whole different culture. So you would learn a lot, I'm sure, about yourself.
Well, I was going through like a real bout of uncertainty, depression, like, because I had been an athlete my whole life, and then I wasn't able to like keep being an athlete. Like I wasn't able to play professionally or play for my national team or anything like that. I played basketball. So I was like, and then I just didn't know what my identity was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I just needed to like get out and see some of the world to like find some new inspiration.
Sure. Right. You went out and lived.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like all creative people need to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So 2 years in Arizona, and then what? You did the 7 hour car ride to LA. I mean, had you been here before, or was it your first time when you actually decided to move here?
I'd visited once, but briefly.
Yeah.
I had a friend in San Bernardino. I visited her and we came in for like the day or something like that. So basically, had never been here.
I find it so interesting because, like everyone I talk to has come from somewhere else to LA. I think I've only chatted with like one person who was like born and raised in LA. And I'm so fascinated by everyone's different reasons for coming here. Like, it was to, be in the entertainment industry. It was because they wanted to make music, or it's because they wanted to write, or it's because they needed to get away from home. But almost none of them had been to LA before they just decided to move here. Like, they're just like, oh yeah, LA, I need to go there. Like, and it was just like a beacon of like, this is just, yeah. So I like the fact that you kind of didn't really know what you were getting into, but you kind of felt like this was going to be your home.
And it was. As soon as I got here, I don't mean like everything fell into place. Sadly, that still has not happened. But
I'm still waiting as well. Yeah, it should be happening any day now. Yeah.
But, things did start to happen. I ended up getting a career and I found friends really easily. And I'm still in the career. So, like, it worked.
Mm-hmm. It's I think LA has a great creative and collaborative spirit.
Mhm.
Like, obviously you'll find people making $100 million movies, and then you'll find people shooting on the side of the street, trying to put together a feature for $10,000.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's everything in between. But no one is here not trying to make something. Yeah. And I as good or bad as anything is, I just respect that creative process. Yeah.
I do too, with other people, not just about me. It's weird, but like,
Everyone else's work is shit. It's only me.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, we're joking, by the way. We're joking. Internet people, we're joking.
I can feel the hate mail coming on.
Don't read the comments. So how did things kind of fall into place for you once you first got here? What were your first kind of moves?
Well, I ended up getting a job at Genre magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the copy editor. But then the associate editor left like 2 weeks later, so they created a managing editor's position, moved me into that.
And what was Genre magazine all about? Because nowadays there's no magazines anymore, right?
It was a gay men's lifestyle magazine. It's kind of like the Poor Man's Out.
Okay.
And so it was good to get started on something smaller too. It was national, maybe international, I don't remember. And to become managing editor, and that gave me just a lot of experience with not just editing, but like managing and, invoices and stuff. And then ended up being weird. In the end, so a year later, I moved over to Out magazine.
Which was the larger, biggest kind of gay magazine.
I guess the biggest gay magazine.
Really? Is it still to this day?
I don't, as far as I know, nothing else has come along to usurp that title,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. But I imagine it's still the biggest, even if it's a lot smaller than it used to be, like most magazines are.
Yeah, they're all in decline. So it's just like, which one's still the best, worst? Yeah. Yeah. And so what was it like working, for Out in LA? This is kind of the place where everyone can come and be themselves.
Right. Yeah, it was great. I worked with lovely people. It's a family, so sometimes you didn't get along, of course.
Hmm.
But there's really lovely people, and I learned a lot about editing and more managing and all that.
Hmm.
And it's just really collaborative and creative. I didn't do a whole lot of writing there. It was worked against me soon after once I left, because people wanted clips. They want to say, "What have you written?" It's like, oh, well, that's not what I did as managing editor there.
No, you're running a business, right? You're not writing. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
some other places want you to do both. And anyway, so I ended up getting clips and it all worked out. But but because I didn't write for them very often, I'd do some reviews, but that's neither here nor there in terms of like, you didn't write any cover stories. Like, sadly.
Well, what kind of things was, I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant about this, but what other things was Out covering, back in the day?
Oh, God. Fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's features. So it's very entertainment-y, but not being an entertainment magazine. It was harder to get people to go on the record because people weren't as out as they are now.
I think that is probably the most interesting part about working in the gay publishing space like 20 years ago, right? Is like no one wanted to talk to you.
Right.
But now everyone is like, I'm gay or I'm bisexual or like, and they're wearing it on their sleeves and it's on social media. Think about how easy it would be to get interviews these days.
Right.
Versus, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say?
Just your experience at Out and yeah, we're just working in that space.
Yeah, it was great and it was really creative and I really enjoyed it. One of my best jobs ever. I would still be there, but they moved my position to New York.
Oh, that's tough.
They asked me to go.
You can't do winters.
Yeah, there's the winters, and it was like they weren't going to pay me. There may be a teeny bit more. I was like, New York, LA is very expensive too. But New York at that point was more expensive, and I was like, I'm not even going to be able to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be in LA.
Yeah, I don't think I could handle the winters. I think I've been like winterless now since probably about 2018, and I don't think I can go back. It's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
I remember I went back to visit Michigan at some point years ago at this point, and I met my friend. We used to run around downtown Ann Arbor doing stuff on our lunch breaks. We'd get stoned and just have a great time, then go back to work. So I met her, and we were running around. It was on our lunch break, and it was so fucking cold So I'm practically running down the street. We're one block from where we're aiming to go. I had to pull into a Barnes and Noble because it was so fucking cold. And she comes up behind me and says, oh my God, I can't keep up with you anymore. I'm just like, I'm running because it's so fucking cold. You could keep up if it weren't, minus 17.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disgustingly cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't do it anymore. I mean, even here in the winter, like this has been my first winter in LA, and everyone's been telling me how it's been like unseasonably rainy and wet and things like this. But to me, it just seems lovely, like just beautiful. So I've been enjoying.
I love the rain, but I've been here long enough to see the difference. Like it used to rain a lot during the winter, and then it didn't for a while. Enough that it was like, this isn't just an odd year. Like the climate change, like this is one of the results. And it's just been unbelievably hot for the past few years. Last summer, it came down to normal. In my head, I don't know the actual numbers, but it wasn't sweltering for 100.
Yeah, because that's where you get all the forest fires and stuff
Right.
like that, which have been devastating, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the rain with the floods and the landslides, like you can't win for losing. But no, I prefer the rain, and I prefer days like today, overcast and cool. That's why I came to LA, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you never need more than just a jacket, right? There's no hats and gloves and scarves and all this shit. Yeah. So I mean, I think I have this idea in my head of it being quite glamorous to be a managing editor of a magazine, in LA in the 90s, right? Like, you're going to movie premieres, maybe you're interviewing some exciting fashion people, and you're kind of like, it helps you get to know everyone around town. Like,
Sure.
well, I mean, what was it like being in that role at that time?
It was great.
Mm-hmm. Because back then magazines still meant something,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
so like I was a journalist. I worked for the New York Times, and then I worked for Time, Newsweek, Forbes, and Fortune. I covered China, and I remember
Me.
I wasn't always writing though. I was a photographer as well. But like before 2008, 9, 10, like magazines and newspapers were amazing resources. Before everything kind of really moved online, and before all the ad dollars moved online. But I mean, you were kind of there during that like great last gasp.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to go to cool events and cool parties. Got to go to the premiere of The Aviator. That was very exciting.
Oh, that was Leo. Yeah.
And I saw Leo. I don't know if he saw me. He must have. But it was interesting because we were at the Chinese theater, the movie premiere of The Aviator. In The Aviator, the characters go to a movie premiere at the Chinese theater. So we're seeing them in the place we're in, doing what we're doing. It was one of my best Hollywood moments. And all I did was show up. I was just sitting there. I didn't do anything.
That's great, though.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But like, I didn't really interview anybody. Like I said, I wasn't really writing, so I didn't do a whole lot of interviews. I interviewed Kelly Rowland, I think, from Destiny's Child.
Okay.
A couple of the gay survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Like little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure it's far more glamorous for other people. Also, I think when it's happening to you, you can't really tell.
Yeah, that's true.
Because some people seem to think I have a shit ton of money. It's kind of weird. No one's ever said that, but just odd comments. Nothing snarky, but I'm like, how much do you expect me to donate? Or whatever, So I don't know what this whole point. I don't know what my life looks like to other people. To me, I'm just in the trenches.
I think we all are. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But then sometimes some just odd remarks where I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what you think my life is. I'm just in my underwear at the computer most of the time doing.
I think it was Ernest Hemingway that said, writing is easy. You just have to sit at a typewriter and bleed.
Oh, yes, I heard that before. I loved that.
Yeah, that's about right. Just eating cereal for dinner,
Right.
writing. Yeah, like a forever college student.
And when I was in college, I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. But in the end, I could not.
So where did you gravitate towards after the magazine work with Out and Genre?
Well, after they moved my position to New York, I went through because I keep a log of like jobs I apply for.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened. I got a call from a gay porn magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to be editor-in-chief.
And what was, I mean, how did that make you feel?
I was like, you're going to pay me? Let's do it. Like what I was thinking. I never had a problem with porn, so that wasn't a thing. I just couldn't figure out what I had applied for.
Right.
And apparently I applied. I don't think they just found me. I don't know. Anyway, so I went there, and it's called Gay VN. the Adult Video Network or Adult Video News. Even when I was there, I cannot remember what the N stood for. But so it's
Maybe network.
It's not
Network or news, yeah, I think so. Because I was in Vegas a while ago, and I saw a big poster somewhere for the AVN Awards. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's I think a network or news, something like that. So you worked for them.
I worked for them for the gay offshoot, and it was fine. Porn wasn't my thing, so it lasted for 2 years. I had some good times. It was just work. It was a lot of work, and it wasn't a jerk-off magazine. It was kind of like Variety or The Reporter.
So all about industry news.
About the industry.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, oh, our new model we just signed over here. Here's a picture of it. Things like that.
I'm glad we identified that it wasn't a jerk-off magazine right away before you told me about your experiences.
And I don't know what went on like at the parties and events, because I never saw anything like crazy.
Because one would expect, if you're working in the porn industry, for it all just to be an orgy all the time, right? But it's not like that. Yeah, people are trying to make money.
Right. Absolutely. And so I'm sure, some shenanigans went down. I just wasn't invited or didn't care enough to sniff it out. I don't know. But it's some fun.
What was it like, kind of being on the fringes of that lifestyle? Like, did it scare you? Like, is it something you wanted to go deeper into? Or did it, I mean, because it's a unique position to be in a unique industry, right? And I think now, the adult industry has gravitated so much into online, and especially now since COVID, like everybody has an OnlyFans page. Like, people are asking me to have my own OnlyFans page. I'm just joking, but
money.
I have beautiful feet. But I mean, back in the day, like, I mean, I remember growing up when I was a teenager, like magazines were all you had to understand who was who, what was what, like what was going on. Like, it was like a real resource, and now it's kind of like a secondhand, useless piece of paper. I mean, because you were there at a time when people actually were reading it.
Right. They needed. I don't know what they're doing in the industry now, but they were really resistant to online. They're also really resistant to bareback, which I did get to a degree, because it was for the gay community, the gay male community. A lot of these people were older, so they saw that their peers, the whole pool of their peers, decimated to the AIDS crisis. But at the same time, it was like, I never said this because I had to like straddle the line in the middle, but it's like, people want bareback. This is a fantasy for them, no matter what they do in their personal lives.
Right.
And they were resistant to that. They were really resistant to going fully online. It's like, don't you understand this part of the industry is dying? You need to be more forward thinking than this. So I left before anyone figured that out.
There's an interesting story about like whether when the Blu-ray DVD industry blew up in like the 90s, right? And now everyone was like buying Blu-rays of like their favorite movies and everything like that. And everyone was like, I think there were some various competing technologies of Blu-ray and discs, and they were like, which Blu-ray technology should the film industry adapt? And everyone in the film industry was just going to watch the porn industry, because whatever the porn industry was going to do, they knew that was going to be the successful technology. Because once they put all the porn movies on discs, and this is obviously before everything is on the internet and free, they were saying like they're waiting for that technology to prove itself in the porn industry, and then the entire entertainment industry would just jump on board whatever they chose, because they sell way more, or they used to. So yeah, I always felt like that was funny. Like Hollywood was just looking into the valley, being like, "What are you going to choose? What technology is next?" Right?
Right. Well, people love their porn.
Yeah.
People will shell out money for porn before they would for a mainstream movie, if it came, one or the other.
Yeah. That's wild. And what was it like working for the gay offshoot of that ecosystem of AVN and stuff like that?
It was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't love the job.
Because I mean, I guess the women get way more attention. Like
in the straight part of the porn, absolutely, it's all about the women.
Yeah.
And this is just gay men. So maybe some transgender, I don't really remember, but it was never like involved. And there were some bisexual titles, I guess. But I feel like they considered that a smaller portion, so they didn't cater to it that much.
Sure. And then, I mean, were you concerned at all about like working in that industry and like being kind of tainted by the porn industry if you wanted to go back into more mainstream work later? I mean, is that a real stigma in this town? Like if you go into onto the dark side and then like, are you allowed to come back and write for Variety or something like that if you've worked for AVN, or is there like a real border between those two experiences?
There might have been a border at some point. I was never worried about it.
Okay.
Could have been I need a job, so whatever happens, happens. Yeah, I don't remember if I even thought about that.
Okay.
But now I work for Disney, so clearly no one cares.
Clearly nobody cares. That's amazing. But so how long between AVN and Disney?
Oh no.
Yeah.
2 years, maybe.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah. And
I would put GAVN, and I don't know if people knew what it was. I remember that. Like, it'll be there. I won't say, Gay Porn Magazine. It would just say GAVN, editor-in-chief, whatever my duties were, on my resume. And if someone asked, every once in a while they did, I would tell them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point in lying.
Not when everything's online.
Right. They have to do a quick Google search and say, oh, he's lying.
Yeah.
We don't want to hire a liar.
No, you don't want to hire a liar, right? Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, so after GAVN, I mean, where did you end up?
I've been doing freelance essentially since then.
Okay.
Some long-term gigs and some shorter, and just at some point in there, I started, I guess after GAVN, right after I decided to start writing screenplays. I was at the gym, the boxing gym on La Brea. It's still my favorite gym. I drove by it on my way here. I remember I was doing abs, and I was just like, just upset in my head about society going down the drain. And it's like, I'm going to write. And so I did.
Amazing.
I felt much better.
Yeah, you wrote your anger out.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of drinking or doing drugs or feeling like shit all the time, just write all your anger out.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a comedy, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Not all my scripts are great, so I can point out the ones that are. And it's still relevant. And we just had a table read at the first 20 pages with We Make Movies, this film consolidation production company thing. And people loved it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I read the pages before that night because I hadn't worked on it for so long, because I have so many others in my books and so much else is going on. It's like, this is to be really fresh in my head again, because if people ask me questions.
Yeah, what did you mean here? Why did you write it like this? You have to be on, right? Yeah.
Right. And I did run up on stage after, and people asked questions and gave feedback, and people really loved it, and they laughed a lot, which is good because, well, it's comedy, so I guess
That's what I mean about the creative community in LA. Like, I really feel like, it's hard to become successful here, obviously, because there's so many people fighting. It's incredibly competitive. But I also feel like people here are pretty supportive of the creative process. Like, if you've made something, people are going to come out and be like, great work. Like, you might not have broken through, but you made something, and that's better than not making anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I find people are very supportive, really collaborative. Let me hook you up with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
They do whatever you're looking for or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I understand it's competition, but I just said this to someone, I don't know who it was. I understand it is competition. And even if we're both painters, let's say, then it's competition, but like, you're going to do something so different from what I do. It's not really competition, so it is, but it's not. Like, why can't we just support each other is my point.
I love that. I actually think that's like the biggest difference between New York and LA. Like, in New York, if you're an artist and I'm an artist, even though we do totally separate things, I'm going to be like, fuck that guy, man. I'm going to be way better than him. Like, it's just this like coked out, angry, like, fuck that guy, man. He's not going to get anywhere. But in LA, everyone's like, yeah, man, I saw his work. I loved it. I posted on my social medias. He's going to be great. Yeah, totally different from what I do. So I'm giving him lots of love. And like, everyone here is just like so much more fucking chill.
Oh, I love that. And those are the stereotypes of New York and LA. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
They're not always true, but they're kind of true.
Right. It's true of enough people that's why people just lump them all together.
And this is what Canadians think about Americans. Because I'm not even from here. That's wild. So, I mean, what are you doing at Disney these days? I mean, is it exciting work?
Well, I'm freelance there too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fan club called D23, and it's for hardcore Disney. And they have like convention, and they have a quarterly magazine. So that's what I edit for them. It's a quarterly magazine.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
it is. It's really cool. All the behind the scenes stuff, and it's all promotional.
Mm-hmm.
But they're preaching to the choir. It's the hardcore Disney fans who are in this club who get this magazine.
Are you doing just pure Disney stuff, or you're also touching like Marvel and Lucasfilm stuff?
National Geographic.
Oh yeah.
Tarzan. They have Tarzan now too.
Oh man. I love the Nat Geo stuff. I just watched actually last weekend on Disney Plus, not advertising partner of mine, but I just watched the Alex Honnold documentary where he climbs in Greenland because I
Not Free Solo.
no, not I had seen Free Solo many years ago, but this new one where he goes to Greenland and he climbs this beautiful, crazy, difficult wall right next to this fjord in Greenland. And I mean, I rock climb all around the world too and stuff like that. I'm not at his level, anywhere near his level, but I love it. And I used to I still do make TV shows about it, but anyways, I watched that last weekend. There's like 4-part series. It was absolutely well done, so well done.
What's it
Oh Jesus!
called? Oh, don't, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard of this, and that surprises me. Usually, I hear of something even if I don't check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it though. I mean, Disney's kind of like, they're trying, right? Like they had to do something to kind of compete against Netflix. So they bought Marvel, they bought Lucasfilms. They're trying to put it all online, trying to like compete. And I mean, they have the biggest IP catalog of anyone in the world. Yeah. And trying to monetize that must be incredibly difficult.
Imagine. It's such an empire. I'm not even a cog. I'm a cog of a cog of a cog of a cog.
But what's it like kind of working in that fandom space where people take that shit really seriously? Because that's the thing that's like a little tough for me. Like I appreciate all that, but I don't go to Comic-Con or I'm not that hardcore where I dedicate massive amounts of time of my life to it.
Right. I worked at Famous Monsters magazine. Do you know what that is?
No, what's that?
It was a magazine that was around in like the 50s into 70s. I'm not sure. But they ended up bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just about horror movies and science fiction and that kind of thing, fantasy.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, it was really cool. So this is the point. I went to Comic-Con with Famous Monsters. The only time I've been there. I don't need to go back. I enjoyed myself. It helped that I had a place to go, like with the booth, and to go to these different panels that I had to go to write about the website, all that. There's just so many people, and I don't know. Is it that exciting to be there when someone announces, "Oh, this person joined the cast of this upcoming movie"? I mean, I'll see it online in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to be around all these people. Not those people in particular, just people in general.
Yeah.
Smashed into an auditorium. So I'm not a fan like that either, but I am a fan on the outskirts.
Yeah, that's. I think I sit in that space as well. I've become like incredibly crowd averse, since living in China actually, because I was just surrounded by people all the time, and I lived in Shanghai, which is like 35 million people. Oh my God. Yeah. And it's imagine LA. This is what Shanghai is. Imagine LA with its like urban sprawl, but imagine there just being like 1,000 40-story buildings. Yeah, I mean it's the same level of urban sprawl as LA, but there's high rises everywhere because there's just like 4 or 5 times more people, but it's intense anyway. So I used to get a lot of like anxiety from being in the city too much, and then I would go out like into the hinterland to go hiking and climbing as a way of just kind of like resetting.
Yeah, that 35 million people.
Yeah. Well, it's China. There's 1.3 billion people there. Sure, every city's pretty big.
Right, and I always see in my head like Chinese cities seem crowded.
Yeah.
But 35 million people.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot back in the day, but it was good to get out of the city, and yeah. But it definitely left me like very crowd sensitive. So I like avoid crowds like the plague now.
Yeah, and then with COVID, like I'm not really worried about it, but I'm still aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I only got it once, but sometimes because I'm in the LA Drama Critics Circle, I review for Broadway World. So I'm at
Oh, do you also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at the theater all the time. I have a show tonight.
Oh.
I have a show tomorrow night. I'm there a lot. So sometimes there are just so many people. I'm like, COVID, or just anything.
Yeah.
Do you guys want your germ?
What's it like being part of that critics inner circle?
It's fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I keep saying that. Oh, it was fun, but it is. We take it seriously.
Yeah.
You know, like when I'm at the theater, I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the job. Even if I paid it to go see it on my own, I'm still representing Broadway World and the Circle, even if no one knows who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to be professional. Not that I would not be professional otherwise, but it's a different kind of thought process,
Yeah.
and it's cool. I get to see a lot of theater, and I review as many as I can.
What's the LA theater scene like? I mean, you have to excuse me. I haven't really dipped my toe into it yet because I haven't been here too long. But I mean, is it vibrant?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shit ton of theater. It's astonishing.
Is it like all new stuff? Is it like really avant-garde stuff, or are people trying to do like the classics? Because I feel like that's more
Place.
Yeah.
I'm going to see Nora, which is a take on A Doll's House by Ibsen, and they're doing that. So it's not A Doll's House, but it's a take off of it. I say a spin off. That's not the right word. So that's kind of a classic, but also new.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's super avant-garde, like you said, an art scene. Sometimes it's here's Shakespeare, and it's all over the place, which is great. I mean, it's LA.
Yeah.
So it's not New York. Everyone thinks of New York as a theater town. Fair, that's fine. But there's so much going on here. I mean, just the costume designers and the writers and the actors. How many actors?
Yeah, I mean, it must be incredible, right? Because they're all doing films, and then when they're not doing films, they're probably trying to do theater, costume designers as well, set designers as well. Like, everyone's here to do all that work all the time. So it doesn't matter whether there's a digital camera looking at you or an audience of 500, right?
Or five.
Or 5.
Some of the theaters I've been in are so small, and that's not a good or bad thing. Some of them are so small, and some of the others are so big. It's just all across the whole spectrum, and that doesn't even speak to the quality of the material or the production. Some of the best things I've seen have been in theaters basically the size of this room, and there are maybe 20 people who can sit there. At one point, it was Through a Glass Darkly, a staged version of the Ingmar Bergman film, which I've never seen. And it was so small. I was in the front row because I was reviewing it. I'm sure that's why they put me there. And my feet were on the stage, just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were right there. And it was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And some of the huge, huge shows are terrible. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Until you're there. But then anytime you listen to a song, buy a book, you don't know until you know.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing of it, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I love live performance. Like, I've always, when I went to New York all the time when I was living abroad, I would go 3 or 4 times a year, and I would always try to go to Broadway plays. I love, I don't see myself like as an actor, but I have a real appreciation for that genre. And of course, when you see, the one that I really remember more than anything else, I mean, I've seen Phantom of the Opera, I've seen Hamilton, I've seen Chicago, I've seen all the classics, but fucking Book of Mormon, by Trey Parker or Matt Stone, the South Park guys, just too much, as far as just brilliant stage comedy.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah. Did that ever play out here? Is it still on Broadway as well?
It was here maybe twice.
Yeah.
Maybe more, I don't know. I feel like I remember it being here twice, though.
Yeah, it even went to London. My brother was in London and saw it in London and just cried. It laughed so hard he was crying. So I mean, it's pretty amazing what gets created in this part of the world and then gets kind of exported elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. So what's it been like, kind of being in LA for as long as you have, almost 25 years, which is almost actually the same amount of time that I was outside the United States.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I left when I was 22 and I just came back. So about 20, maybe 22 years, 23 years. But what's it been like kind of growing up as an adult in LA, being part of that creative scene? Like, could you have seen yourself doing what you're doing anywhere else?
Yes and no. Because a lot of it's my writing, which is just me wherever the fuck I am. But then the short films, that wouldn't happen the same way if I were in Milwaukee, let's say. Because so many people here are involved in the industry. So we can find a director, we can find a choreographer or whatever. We can find someone to do the lights and the sound. That would be harder in a smaller place.
Mm-hmm.
Like in New York, I'm sure you can find all that too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we discussed is more stage oriented. But I think it's been great here. I went through a lot. I learned a lot. I grew a lot, as everyone does. Well, ideally, they learn a lot. And yeah, I just feel, like I said, things just fell into place a lot. Yeah, it's been great. I'm so glad that I had the balls to get here. Since I knew I was supposed to be here. I think about
That's a real like manifest destiny kind of moment. Like at 7 years old, being like, I need to be in LA.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, I mean, and also I know people who still live in my little town, and they're great.
Mm-hmm.
They're smart. They're open. Just because you're from a small town doesn't mean you're.
No, not at all. I mean, I think small town USA is one of the great things that this country has to offer. I mean,
Too.
yeah. I mean, I remember I did a lecture tour across the U.S., I think in 2016 or 2017. I did like 22 events in 27 days. Yeah. From New York to San Diego. Yeah, and I got to drive like right through the heartland. I was in like Cincinnati, Ohio. I was in Louisville, Kentucky. I was just everywhere. Of course, I was in Manhattan, and I did one in LA, and I did one in San Diego as well. So Phoenix, Arizona. But it was just spectacular. And like some of the small towns, the people were just so genuine and so sweet and so thankful, like that I had come from some international place to come and like just chat with them. And I just, I just remember everyone being so incredibly like welcoming. And I just felt like that is so rare.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of Europe, like I spent a lot of time in Europe too. Like Europe, small town people are also kind of nice, but I think there's still like a language and a cultural barrier. And at least for me, being Canadian, it's pretty much the same. And then being like coming from somewhere completely different seemed to be a huge attraction, which is why people came out to the shows and stuff. So it was really lovely. Yeah. The heartland's beautiful.
It really is. I've driven across the country twice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's stunning. And I remember someone saying Nebraska. I was like, Nebraska is beautiful. Like, it just seems flat. I'm like, well, it was. That was part of the beauty.
Big sky country. Yeah.
That was what was cool about it. Because then we were in Colorado. That wasn't all flat. Like, it's all different. I can appreciate the differences. Do I want to live in Nebraska? Not necessarily. I don't well enough to really have an opinion, except it was really beautiful. Illinois was beautiful.
You know what I found out yesterday? That Montana is the suicide capital of the United States.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I was speaking with someone about mental health and just speaking about, traveling around the United States or doing road trips and stuff like this. And I've even filmed in Montana. And yeah, Montana has a bit of a dark space around it, sadly. And I never knew that either. So it kind of hit me as a shock.
I wonder why. Just the openness to isolation, maybe. People are just not connecting to people so much because there are fewer, I don't know if there are cities there. Is Helena a city?
Yeah, I think there's cities. Yeah, but Big Sky, Montana, I think is one of the bigger cities too.
It might be someplace else. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Big Sky. Yeah. So there are places, but they're all going to be very small compared to like Miami or Chicago or something.
Mm.
So I just wonder if that kind of isolation contribute to that, because it seems odd. Like, why Montana?
Yeah, I mean, I learned it was a strange conversation. I won't go too much into it, but it was like, it was a lot of isolation. It was a lot of older white men. And I guess a lot of feeling of failure, disconnection, maybe divorce, maybe, my kids are all grown up. I have nothing more to live for. There was a lot of like this kind of darkness, but I never saw Montana like that. Like when I went to Montana, we filmed in Glacier National Park. We were met some amazing people. We loved the nature. Like we had just such a wonderful time. But there's like as wonderful as it is, I guess there's these little dark pockets in some places, which, it's not easy, but it's there. Yeah. Didn't mean to bum you out or take that in a totally different direction.
No, it's so interesting. I feel like I want to Google it. Why is Montana?
Yeah, we'll both have to do some homework after this chat, right? It's like I got to go home and figure out what the hell is going on in Montana.
I remember I was going to Google. I don't remember what I was Googling. Why is Michigan? Or maybe I was Googling why is something else, but it auto-suggested, and it said, why is Michigan so poor? I was like, that's the first auto-suggestion?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
I know. I was like, so I clicked enter. I was curious, and it didn't really explain why.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's odd asking that.
I gave a talk in Michigan once. I mean, most of the United States I only know because I gave a talk there, and I do a lot of speaking. So I think I was in like Battle C?
Battle Creek.
Yeah. I was. No, it was Battle Creek. I just got it wrong. But yeah, Battle Creek, Michigan. That was really nice, like small town. It's kind of like a one-street town. But again, the people were amazing. I think like we got like 500 people out that night into that little. I felt like the whole town was there. It was amazing. Yeah. It was like, I think it was like a 2-hour drive north of Detroit, maybe something like that.
That's about right.
Yeah. Good experiences all around.
Cool. Yeah, Michigan's a lovely place
Yeah. Would you ever go back
to visit,
to live?
only if I had to. I like Michigan. Again, Ann Arbor still pulls at my heart, but like, I don't want to live there.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like I feel I also feel like a lot of people who come to LA from other parts of the country, once they like find their footing here and once they kind of like connect with the people here, leaving is like next to impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
It's giving yourself enough time to get that footing and create that foundation of your community. I know a lot of people. I remember this girl I met at some party, some drunken party. I don't know. I only met her the one time, but we really hit it off. And she said, "Come to LA and be an actor." Great. So I asked the friend in between, like, whatever happened to this girl, whose name I won't say. She came out to LA and went back 6 months later. I was like, well, you didn't even have time to try at that point.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
You have to give it, any place really, at least 2 years. I mean, you might know, I knew Tucson was not for me pretty quickly, but I still have to stay 2 years because I had to. But I mean, if you're here specifically for something, you didn't just move here randomly, like, oh, this isn't quite working out. Like, you came here to do something here.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. Yeah, I just don't understand. So I'm sure she's free, but I feel bad that happened to her, or that she chose to do that. It didn't just happen to her.
One of my friends, Kurt, he came out here. He was on the podcast a little while ago too. He's a really, really sweet guy. He came out here to be an actor. So he came from Colorado, right? He loved musical theater. He knew he had to come to Hollywood. He knew this was his place, right? And he said something beautiful. He said, like, he was getting auditions and he even got some jobs and was in some films and stuff like that. And he was doing well. And he was just, he understood staying power. He's like, the moment you stop doing the thing, you're no longer living the dream. Mm-hmm. And you're not just living the dream for yourself. You're living the dream for all your friends you left behind who yeah, and it's like, it doesn't matter how long you have to be a waiter for. It doesn't matter how long it is in between jobs. As long as you're still doing the thing, you haven't failed yet. And
Right.
and I just felt like that was such a healthy way of looking at it. Cause like, for example, I climb mountains, right? And it's a long way to get to the top. And, and it can take 1 day or it can take 10 days or 20 days, as you don't know, and weather and all this stuff. But you can't stop, right? Like,
Or you haven't done it.
Yeah.
Did you climb the mountain? Well, not really.
Yeah. And then you went home.
Then you
That's not what this town's built on, damn it.
Right. It's built on broken dreams.
That's a good way to...
At least allow your dream to get broken.
Yeah. It's a good way to describe it. Yeah. No, I think people who come out here, like, it's hard. I mean, you do need staying power. You do need to see your dreams break down. I feel like the darker, it's darkest right before the light, right? Like, I feel like, but that's when most people leave, when shit really hits the fan. Like, everyone's like, gotta go home or gotta try some new place. But like, if you can ride out the shit, that's like, things are only going to get better. Like, it can't get worse.
Right.
Like, things have to go up from here. And if you just give yourself that time, you'll find your people.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this girl she was very warm. We hit it off, but I feel like she would have made friends.
Yeah.
I came here and made friends out of nothing.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like this town is like very friends. Yeah. And everyone's like, and I think a lot of people, like, they really try to bring their friends into their work, and they'd really try to like help friends find jobs. And, oh, I heard someone's doing something there. I have a friend that does this. And like, everyone's like trying to help everyone get connected here.
Right.
Whereas I feel like also too, like a little bit in New York, like everyone's really standoffish and really protective of their own little like castle that they've built. No one wants to like lower the moat and let people in.
Right.
I feel like everyone out here is just a little warmer, a little more easygoing. And I like that.
Well, as people get older too, they're like, it's so hard to make friends as an adult. I'm like, is it?
Oh, I find that for sure.
Harder than
Kid. I just feel like your standards of what bothers you. But I've been lucky because I also feel like the context. Okay, I feel like it's harder to make friends as an adult than when you're kids, but I also feel like it's because of the context of how you meet people. Right? So like when you meet people as a kid, you don't have any expectations, you don't know anything, and you're just like judging that person for who they are. Nice person, bad person, they treat me well, they don't treat me well, right? Basic. But then as you get to be an adult, like we want different things. We need different things. I'm trying to get here. I need a better job. I want to move house. I want to do all these things. And then with all those stresses already in our brains, we're trying to also find time to meet people. And I feel like the whole situation is like loaded, like, because there's already too much going on to really care about someone else. And then, but actually, since I've started this podcast, it's okay. People bang the table all the time. But through this podcast has been really nice because, like, I don't really want anything from anyone. They don't want anything from me. It's just here to chat, right? And the people I've met and the conversations I've had have been so beautiful. And like, you're not looking at your phone, and we're not distracted by social media. Two people sitting in a room, bearing their soul out, like creativity and the books and art and everything else. And I just find it like this is like how you make friends as an adult. I think, trying to meet people for business or trying to meet people in part of your like business day is just too loaded. It's destined to fail.
Well, I think as kids too, like, we're forced to be together with other kids in school. So you end up finding friends, making friends, and sometimes that shifts. But when you're an adult, you're at work. If you go into an office, then you're forced to be together. But like you're saying, then all these other things are going on in our heads and our lives. So it's not quite the same. And then if you don't work in an office where you're seeing the same people all the time, then you kind of have nothing to jump off of. You have to go out. You have to, I tell people, it's not just going to bars, but I've made really good friends in bars, not just drinking buddies. And you can meet people at parties, through friends, volunteering. You just have to throw yourself out there and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to sit there like, oh, I wish I had someone, but you're not I don't mean actively seeking out a guy or a girl, but just being out there. Well, of course you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the same thing with being in the creative industry, right? Like, you have to be putting your art out there in the space and getting rejected, getting criticized, getting everything in order for people to even know it.
Right. Exactly. You have to be out there. You have to be out there.
I mean, how long before you came out to LA were you like, I knew you kind of like knew when you were a kid that you wanted to be out here, but how long before you were out here and working and you were just like, yeah, this is the best place in the world for me?
Oh, I know, it kind of felt like that when I arrived.
On day one?
Yeah, it kind of felt comfortable, familiar. So it just fit like a glove, as they say. Yeah. And I still don't want to live anywhere else. It's still my favorite place.
Mm-hmm.
I want to live other places, but short term.
Yeah.
I like to live in New York for like 8 months, let's say. London for 6. So actually be there.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know the places somewhat.
But as a freelance writer, would you have those opportunities to work remotely for that period of time and get to spread those wings?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would be able to afford to do it.
Mm-hmm. It is expensive, and then you'd have to rent out your place in LA, and then...
Well, my partner would still be here. Then there's also that separation.
Right. And the cat.
Separation from the cat.
Yeah.
No, I feel bad if I'm gone for 2 days because she's very, very attached to me.
Oh.
Yeah, so she doesn't know where I went. That's the most heartbreaking thing. I can tell Anthony, my partner, okay, I'm off to, New Zealand for 2 weeks or whatever. He knows where I am. He knows I'm coming back. To the cats, I'm just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And their anxiety makes me anxious.
That's so sweet, though.
But yeah, I don't know if I could just afford to like pop off to New York for any place for just into my work there. Also, I don't know how much work
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of distraction.
Everything's new and wow, I really fuck work.
I tell you, like, it is exhausting because I was traveling around quite a lot back in the day, and it does become exhausting because everything is like new and you're like a tourist all the time. But it is completely exhausting because you don't want to go back to the hotel and just relax. Like, you want to keep walking, you want to keep meeting people, you want to keep trying different restaurants.
Right.
And you're just like, after 3 or 4 days or a week or like 2 weeks, you're crippled. Like, you just can't do it anymore. Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. So, I mean, this being LA, like, do you have any wild and crazy stories you might like to share about things that have happened to you along the way that wouldn't harm anyone, or we can keep names out of it? But I'm always kind of curious about like just random shit that happens to people in this town. No?
Let's maybe circle back.
We can.
Percolate.
Yeah.
Because crazy things have happened. Okay, this is kind of weird. When we were in Vegas for the Adult Video Network Earners Awards and then AVN Awards. And it was a huge convention. I was there for 8 days straight in Vegas. It broke me. I was like, oh, Vegas. By the end of those 8 days, I was like, I love Vegas. But one of these events was in one of the casino hotels. I don't remember where we were, and there was it was a Hugh Hefner suite.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
And so I have a photo of myself on Hugh Hefner's bed in the Hugh Hefner suite in Vegas. Yeah. And there was like a little river that ran through.
Ran through the suite.
Yeah, but there was glass or something on top of it so that it would trip or fall or anything like that. But it had been cracked. And it turns out, this seems to be true. The longer it goes, like, actually true. But what we heard was that the hotel had to come in and clean things up really quickly, and they couldn't fix the glass on the thing because it would take too much time. Because Michael Jackson had been renting it or been staying there at Hughes, through his generosity or whatever, I don't know. And when he was told he had to leave because we were coming in, he threw a tantrum and broke some shit.
Oh my God, wow, that's hilarious.
We were like, whoa, that's crazy. It didn't affect us. We were like, bring on the drinks,
But you kicked Michael Jackson out of his suite.
It's pretty cool.
That's a good Vegas story. That's a Vegas story only for Vegas.
But KVN is, headquartered here.
Mm-hmm.
So it counts as an LA story too, kind of.
Absolutely. No, that's great. It's great. So I mean, where do you stand with your freelance work? I mean, what's it been like kind of being a freelance writer in the film and television space, trying to get projects off the ground?
It's been okay. The freelance writing is for the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 short films that were very successful and some short scripts that are doing well. And I got some features that I'm pitching, and people love it. It's very frustrating. People keep saying, you're great. Your shit is great. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, but it's not getting me anywhere. So I've clawed my way to the middle of the ladder. So I'm not a newcomer. I'm not a beginner. I know what I'm doing. I know some of the stuff I've done is good. I just need to break through to the next level. So it's a weird nebulous place to be.
Where do you see the industry now, though? I mean, like, because, for example, like, you're writing these, whether it's like your book Until September, where it's like a romantic story between 2 people, like, you're not writing like superhero movies, right? Which I guess are super popular these days. But you're writing like nuanced, character-driven work. I mean, that's kind of what I'm assuming that you're working on, right? But those are sometimes movies that aren't just being made anymore, or if they are, they're being made at such a low budget, or it just feels like the industry is a bit stuck at the moment.
It is, and now that the superhero movies are kind of falling out of vogue, I think the industry is trying to figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm.
The next.
I think that's I feel like that a lot. Like with all the people I've talked to coming through COVID, coming through the writers and the actors strike last year, like everyone's trying to figure out like, okay, what is 2024? Like where are we? Because like Marvel and Avengers Endgame 27, like we've seen it, it's done. Like what the fuck is next?
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mind some of the superhero movies, but it did reach a point where I was like, oh, I just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not the built-in audience for that. I'm open and enjoy some of them very much, but like I'm not going to see it no matter what. Like some people will. As people go to Comic-Con, will see it no matter what the reviews are. Mm-hmm. And if it's supposed to be terrible, I'm like, I'm out. I have shit to do. Mm-hmm. Not just Marvel movies,
Yeah. We're not just picking on Marvel here. No. One of the things I've really loved that Disney came out with, I mean, because you're right. Like I feel like we had, like if you look at like the last 10 years, I feel like we had Marvel superhero movies and then DC movies, which were not as successful, I think. And then we had like the Star Wars revival, which is good, bad, ugly. I don't touch that, but it's there. But then now it's like, okay, like, are we going to go back to like character driven movies again? Like, we're going to go back to, you know what I saw just today actually was, Ethan Hawke came out and said like he would absolutely do another, Before Sunrise movie. Did you ever see that movie like 30 years ago? Because it turns 30 like this year. Oh my God. I know. It hit me too because it was who's the actress in that? Julie Delpy. Yeah. I mean that movie. I think I was in high school when I saw that movie, and it was absolutely beautiful, and it like shook me. And then they made 3 more, which were also great. And yeah, and I just read like today that movie turned 30, and I was like, I'm getting old.
Shit freaks me out sometimes. I saw this gorgeous young woman in something. I don't know, I looked her up. I like, that name was familiar. Turns out she was on a show when she was like, maybe, I feel like she was 4, maybe she was 7. And now I'm like, she's this bombshell. I'm like, wasn't this show just on like 4 years ago?
No, that was 20 years ago. She's 24 now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just goes so fast.
Yeah, it does.
The days and the years.
Just flying by.
Right. It's like, oh, I guess. God, Groundhog Day, the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, 5 days a week. I'm either walking to the gym or walking out of it. When I'm walking out of it, I open the door and turns out I'm walking right back in. It's so crazy. Just to do the same thing every day. It's just.
But you can't live in LA and not be fit.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure here.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, I started going like 20 years ago, and I don't know how much it has helped my health because I can't know. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't done that.
No, I mean, if you didn't go to the gym for the last 20 years, you could still drop dead tomorrow. Yeah. Right. There's no guarantees. Yeah.
Right. So you never know, but I think it has probably helped in ways I'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of stamina. And I have a friend who was like, he were at some concert and whoever was performing, it's like, oh, really, the balcony, stand up. And they were like, do you know how old we are? I was like, in my head, I was like, I go to concerts where that's the only option. I was like, oh, why would I sit down?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes, don't get me wrong, it depends what the concert is. Like, I go to the Palladium and I don't think there's a place to sit down.
Yeah.
You just stand there. Why would I want to sit down understand? But I wonder if things like that are because I've gone to work out 5 days a week, essentially for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Like things that I can't know. I'm battling in the gym, Groundhog Day, and yes, the time goes fast.
No, but I really find like when I have writing to do or when I have like some heavy mental lifting to do, right? Like I find going to the gym really calms me down so that I can actually get the work done. Like, because sometimes I'm like too anxious or too antsy, or maybe my focus is wavering between a few different things. But then I go to the gym and then I can really like zone in on one thing for a few hours. And I love that like post-gym focusing ability. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's times I do the cardio first so it's out of the way because, God, oh, it's awful. But so, you can see the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one time it was like 17 minutes. I'm like, oh, it just kicked in. One time it was like 3 minutes. I was like, that was really fast. Just like, I'm over the hump. Okay, I'm here. I'm good. Now I can do this. Because, yeah, it's just the endorphin rush. And then I'm like, then I can go throughout the rest of the day.
For you, for someone who's been here for 25 years in LA, like how do you really feel the city's changed around you in that time? Because obviously anywhere, like we've all changed a lot in the last 25 years, but the city itself has changed a lot, even since I've been coming here pretty regularly since like 2003, 4, but only for like 2-3 days at a time. Like come in, do an event, meet some people, go, right? But for 25 years, you've watched this city kind of grow and change around you. What have been some of the biggest things you've noticed?
Hollywood used to be kind of like Times Square used to be really seedy, and Times Square got that big makeover, Disney-fied, as they say, and Hollywood was still that a little bit when I first moved here, but not too bad. I also knew what LA was. I wasn't expecting Hollywood to be some fairyland. I knew it was kind of a seedy part of town, and that's changed dramatically.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty high end now, certainly compared to what it was, and I tend not to bitch too much about change because change, it doesn't stop.
No, it's always rotating and moving.
Right. And the things that I hold dear was a change from something someone else held dear. Like it just happens. Maybe people have to bitch about it anyway. So Hollywood has changed a lot. It's far more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah.
Downtown they talked about downtown. Oh, downtown's the new thing. They talked about that forever. Then finally it was the new thing.
Is it? I still struggle with downtown LA.
Like I don't really love to go downtown. It's fine. It's just it's always been part of my playground, but it's not a part that I play on very often.
It's funny, when I first moved to LA, this place that we're in now wasn't available exactly when I came over. So I had to kind of set up shop in another place for 2 weeks, and I found this service department which was in downtown LA. I was like, well, I've never been to downtown LA. It can't be as bad as everyone says it is. But oh my God, it was. It was pretty rough. Like when the sun went down, it was time to go indoors for sure.
Yeah. like I would go to events, or something. Let's go to the bar. So we could see it was kind of sketchy, but we weren't just walking around,
Yeah.
And it has come up. It's come up a lot. The whole arts district down there is lovely. And there are times, I never feel like weirdly unsafe downtown. But there are times I have a friend who was parked on the street and her car got stolen. I mean, that can happen.
Yeah, even in this neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a nice neighborhood. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny how like a part of the city has to like completely hit the skids before people move out, and then rents are cheap, and then it becomes an artist district, and then it becomes gentrified, and then all the poor people are gone.
Right.
Yeah, and then something happens, and then we start the cycle again.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I mean, Silver Lake used to not be a trendy part of town.
Mm-hmm.
It has been most of the time I've lived here, I think, but I know that it wasn't always. It was kind of a rougher neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I think the gays felt comfortable there to some degree because it was a little off the beaten track. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that helps gentrify it. And now it's Silver Lake,
Yeah.
And I lived there for years. The goal is to move back to Silver Lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like it there?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like there's two Silver Lakes. There's like one over by Calabasas, and then there's another which is in East Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about the one in Calabasas. There might be an actual lake. It seems odd.
Oh, you're talking about like the east side of the. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is that a nice place to live?
Yeah, I loved it. And it wasn't super pricey then. It was becoming pricey. Okay. And now it's super pricey. So yeah, it was lovely. It's got an artistic kind of soul to it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That's nice. I'm going to have to go check that part of town. I literally, I have a few meetings. I do this. I haven't really had a chance to really spread my wings and explore the majority of what LA is. I just haven't gotten out yet. But yeah.
You can do a lot of walking and do things here from where you are too.
Yeah. That was the reason why I came here, is just because I don't like driving so much and you don't have to move around too much.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the energy of West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. Like it was West Hollywood specifically. Like everyone's out doing things, right? Like people are living instead of just kind of huddled behind massive homes with gates.
Right. No, absolutely. WeHo's great. I love West Hollywood. I lived here for a while too, and would be happy to move back. But in my head, it's always Silver Lake as I manifest.
Oh, well, that's good. Manifesting is how shit gets done. I like that. Yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, do you want to talk about anything that you've got kind of coming up in the next couple of weeks or months? Like what's on the plate for you in the second half of 2024 as we move forward? Any projects that you can talk about, or maybe something that you're working on that you can kind of like shed a little light on?
Oh, there are two things, I guess. I wrote a comedy short. I write horror and comedy.
I love fucking comedies. That's tough. Oh. That's a tough genre though.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's hard, and people really struggle with it. It comes really easy.
You're a funny guy. Just take it. Yeah.
People really struggle with it, and I get that it can be hard. But everyone watches comedy, so it's not, of course. But like, I'm all into the horror stuff. That was harder to write than the comedy. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that is. But I wrote this wedding comedy. It's a short, 20 pages, and I have a director and producer, and we are working on getting that all up and going. He wanted to shoot in April, but now it's April. Even when he said this in like early March, I was like, that's really soon. But so I think it's going to end up being.
That's wild. So if you, as a writer, if you write a short, like what the fuck do you do with it when you're done? Like, right. Like what? I mean, like, how do you manifest that vision of finishing something on your laptop or your computer and then having it in a theater where people like watch it? Like, what's your first step after you've finished a script? That'd be the beginning of my script writing process and the ending of my script writing process.
Be in the middle.
Yeah.
I enter it in contests.
Yeah. Writers
groups to get feedback to make it as strong as it can.
That's very interesting. And LA is good for that, or are these communities online?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Both. I mean, like some Facebook groups. I don't really put my stuff in there. I poke around sometimes.
Are you a member of the Writers Guild?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Because I know they have like some screenwriting groups and like support groups, and there's like communities within there that like help people. And yeah. So, coming soon.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is just one that takes place in a church, 3 rooms. So it's super easy.
A comedy in a church?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I love where this is going.
It gets pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Um.
If you need an altar boy, let me know.
Oh,
I'll make myself available. I've never acted before, but I can be an altar boy.
we do need extras for the actual wedding party, not the party, the guest.
Okay.
We will need extras.
No.
But yeah, so we're doing that, and it should be fairly. We're starting to raise funds for that, and otherwise, I wrote a book when I was 17, and it was a publisher thing, but I did write this book, and people really, my friends, really liked it, and I ended up adapting that into a screenplay.
And is that about your childhood, or is it about something totally? Oh, well, that was my childhood. No, just joking, just joking.
But and it just really deepened a lot as a screenplay. The characters revealed things to me that.
That's wild. How you can like change genres of your writing to have it speak to you in a different way.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. And so then I decided people really like it so much, not enough to buy it. Don't get me wrong, but people will keep doing what you're doing. So I'm now doing that again, or the reverse. I'm turning it back into a novel. And it's called Never Have I Ever. It's a slasher whodunit, but it's also character driven. It's more like Scream. It's not like Friday the 13th, which I love, but that's just like people are here, they're going to die.
Well.
There's more to it than that. And I'm hoping to get that published by September so that it could have some traction before Halloween, because it takes place in October, right before Halloween, in my hometown, which doesn't have a streetlight.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So that's the big aim. Is I'm almost done with the second draft. I'm going to send it to the editor, and then I'll give it another read. And
that's great. I mean, what is for you? What's the difference between writing for a novel and writing for a screenplay? Like, how are you adapting those two very different genres and taking like the same material and repurposing it and then even bringing it back? Like, I mean, that's got to be a real heavy lift.
I guess so. I don't find writing.
Stop being so modest.
I don't think it's easy. I just mean you just sit down and you do it, and then you make it better, and then you make it better. So I just had the screenplay open. Final draft was open on the left, and Word was open on the right, and I added things. Of course, the characters changed dramatically. I mean, they're the same characters. It's the same story, but just backstories and the actual villain and things. It changed a lot. It's pretty.
From the novel to the screenplay.
Yes, but also from the screenplay back. Because I'm like, oh my God, my first draft is really smooth. Well, also it's not a first draft because I did write it when I was 17 and I worked on the screenplay a lot. So I know what's going on, but the screenplay is bare bones. The difference, like you're asking, is a novel you can do basically.
Yeah, that's the freedom, right?
Yeah. That's great. But the screenplay is, besides the formatting, there's just a structure to it that you have to adhere to some degree. Especially when you're breaking in, you can't be too crazy and wild because people are less likely to take a chance something crazy and wild from someone who is not proven they are. It's
also really hard to like inject backstory into a screenplay because you're so limited with time and pages and what people will read and what people won't read.
Right.
I mean, I also, for example, I've met lots of people in the industry who started off as screenplay readers, and they would read because some of these production companies and some of these directors, they would get so many screenplays that you couldn't read them, right? Or so many scripts they couldn't read them. So they would have assistants like read them and make notes and stuff like that, and like say like, okay, yeah, read the first 10 pages and then read these 10 pages and then read, and you'll figure it out. And here's some notes, right? Just so you can get a grip of it.
Fill in the blanks in between.
Yeah, and you're just like, man, I worked on this screenplay for like a year, and this director's gonna read notes of some kid just out of college and then judge my work. Like, it's wild when you think about how things actually get made like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say like, oh my God, I'm horrified that I was a reader when I was young, and now I'm like, I passed on some good things. Like, not even things that became huge successes necessarily, but just projects. I can remember these, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I passed. Now I'm like, wait, that was actually.
I passed on Good Will Hunting.
Right. I passed on Harry Potter.
Yeah. If we could only go back in time. So is there a genre that you prefer to write, or are you just happy to be writing? I mean, is there a preference in anywhere like that?
No, I mean, I lean toward horror and comedy. Lean toward horror because I love it. and then the comedy comes easily. So both are, it's just always fun.
But with the screenplays or with the novels? Because I mean, with the novels, I really feel like you can create your own world. I feel like with the screenplays, I feel like the screenplays have to come out of a novel just so you know what the screenplay is about. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Many screenplays don't come from novels, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Just to get the context. Like,
Right.
like you look at Dune, right? Like I'll just use this massive movie that just came out, which everyone is apparently loving, and I haven't seen it yet, but I will. And I really like the Dune movies because they're very visual and it's a lot about nature, and that's what my TV shows are about. So I kind of like, oh, that desert's beautiful, and like look at the mountains and stuff. But like I mean, if you read Dune, if you read the screenplay of Dune, then you can find it online. Like there's nothing about the desert. There's I mean, well, there is, but it's like a paragraph. But if you were writing a novel, you could spend a whole chapter just describing like the texture of the sand and the way the wind whipped through, and the taste of the the wind would carry the sand, and you dry lips, and like you could really get into it, right? But in a screenplay, like that's where the writer and the director have to like inject that into the scene through hair and makeup, or and I just feel like there's so much. I feel like a screenplay, there's more to be added that's not written.
Right. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's where, like you said, hair and makeup come in, the cinematography, whoever's doing the lights, the editing is critical in ways that I think most of us will never know because we don't know what the editor was given.
Yeah.
We don't know what it could have been. We just see the finished product.
Right. Because with a novel, like it's like bang, done, fuck off, right? But with a screenplay, like everyone's going to read that in a different way and have a different vision in their mind. And then I think that's kind of the beauty of the collaborative process too.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once they purchase Never Have Ever and produce it, it'll be really interesting to see what it looks like in their eyes.
How hard is it for you to create something like that and then kind of quote unquote let it go?
I haven't had to yet.
Okay, that's
I think show me the money.
Show me the money. But then like someone shows you the money, they give you the money, then you give them the screenplay, and then it's like then you have to sit back and let this director interpret your work. I mean, how terrifying, happy, sad is that experience?
Here's my child. Don't drop it.
Yeah, or your cat, right?
Right. Yeah, friendly. It's my cat.
Yeah. There's no space for children here. But I would find that process to be terrifying.
I imagine it will be. The two shorts that I won a contest with one, the prize was to have it produced.
Oh, that's a great win.
Better than $100. And the second one I sold, but I was involved.
Oh, that's good. They kept you on, and yeah.
So that was really welcoming. I know it's not always like that. And now the wedding comedy that I'm also involved in that. I'm one of the producers. So like I'm really involved. So I don't know what it's like to like, here's my cat.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
Ask for input. They may not. It might just be like, here's your one ticket to the premiere, 2 years later, or whatever.
Where's the freedom in you being like, I would like to be involved?
Like, would I say that?
Yeah, like, because I mean, I don't know what the etiquette is in this town, but
I mean, I kind of do, but I don't know what I would do.
I don't know what I would do either, because I wouldn't want to not be part of it. Because having people take your words and take something that's from inside and change it, even if it's better than you could ever imagine, I would still want to be part of it.
Even if it's better, totally. No, I would love to. I would like to be a producer on any of the projects too, but that is so different based on who buys it, who's representing me, what studio it is, etc. It's the director they bring on. That may or may not happen. I think with smaller scripts, it's more likely. I have one called The Alexandrite Ring, which is like a
like The World Today.
Yeah. And it gets getting really good feedback. And there's a song, it's a title song from another script called Green Means Go. And so you hear this consistently, periodically throughout the thing for a reason. And I want to be the one who sings it, because it's not like it's a woman. Speed my voice up. Maybe my singing voice sounds like a woman. I don't fucking know. But just do whatever you need to, because I'm a singer. You know what I mean? She's not on screen. You just hear it. I want to sing.
But we already confirmed Adele.
I'd be like, oh. I'm just kidding. Adele's great.
Yeah.
Actually, she might do it well.
She doesn't do many things terribly. No, but that's what I mean. Like, can you imagine? Like, I think that, it doesn't even matter if they take your work and do something in a totally different direction that's beyond anything you could ever imagine and absolutely brilliant. But to not be part of that rocket ship, right? Like, and to not see the process, like even if you have to sit at the back of the room and keep your mouth shut, at least you're in the room.
Fucking it up. They're fucking it up. They're fucking it up. But I can't say anything. Right.
Yeah, I think being a producer on that work would be very exciting because then you get to actually be part of that creation coming to life.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that would be really beneficial, fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Beneficial too, I guess. But it would be really fulfilling to be really part of the whole process.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like also it's like if I can't be, well, give me $2 million and take risk. And then I'll be like, guess we'll see.
Yeah.
So I would like to be part of it, but if I can't be, at least I'll have a produced feature.
There you go. That's something, right? Something for IMDb.
Right. I know I have 6, 7 IMDb credits. It's so exciting. The first one, I was like, oh my God, I'm on IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb is an interesting one for sure.
Yeah.
It's been that's actually been a huge like part of like me coming to the U.S. and like getting a chance to actually live here is because what they do is like the government like checks your IMDb to make sure like you're an actual entertainer. If you come in as an entertainer,
True.
yeah. So like they like you have to put a whole package together, which includes like some links, like some news media talking about you in that capacity, and then of course your IMDb, which is fairly well policed. Like you can't really cheat on IMDb. Like it has to be, there has to be various counterparties that, the fact check and things like that. So IMDb is kind of like the Bible of your entertainment career. So they actually use that when they give visas to international folks like me. So
wow,
yeah.
That makes sense. I just never.
No, most people don't. And you know what also is very interesting is since the strike, actors strike last year, SAG now has the chance to approve or deny visas for entertainers in the United States. And that's strange because it's a union and it's not the only union. But the SAG basically gets to, before it goes to the immigration department, SAG basically has the chance to say like, this is a real entertainer or not. So imagine if you were out drinking one night and you pissed off, the chief legal counsel at SAG, and then the next week, your application comes along. He's like, fuck that guy.
Totally. He didn't entertain me.
Go back to Canada. Too many fucking Canadians in Hollywood anyways.
There are a lot of.
We're taking over slowly. We're taking over.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
We're working hard. We're trying to get stuff done. We're buying up everything apparently.
Right.
Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling being absolute legends. Yeah. And then of course Jim Carrey, Martin Short, great Justin Bieber, yeah. Some good entertainers out there doing some nice stuff. Yeah. So that's fun little legacy to be a part of the Canadians. I don't know if you've ever like listened to Jim Carrey talk about when he first came to LA. I mean, he's not been on the podcast, but someday maybe. I have a hit list of like the top Canadians in Hollywood that I would like love to interview just as Canadians. Like be like, what was it like coming down here? Like blah 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 blah. And so I think that would be a nice like just kind of like side genre to kind of explore. But there's so many who've come down and like succeeded unbelievably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of others now. Of course, I can't think of anyone because I'm thinking of them. Bruce Greenwood.
I don't know who that is. Yeah. But like Alanis Morissette, I think lives here, and she's a famous singer, right? She had Jagged Little Pill.
Absolutely. Sarah.
Oh yeah, Sarah Polley. Yeah, actor, director, producer. She's amazing, isn't she? Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. It's been pretty spectacular seeing like people come down here and succeed, and because there's nothing in Canada. Like this is the thing. Like everyone thinks like the whole film industry, like everyone in Hollywood is making movies in Canada, but actually the only thing in Canada is the day rates. Like it's just day rate people. None of the IP exists and lives in Canada. It's all owned by everyone down here, and yeah, it's just crew days up in Canada, and those are okay jobs, but they're not like the jobs that most people here are fighting for, right? Yeah, most people want to be part of the waterfall. They want to be above the line. They want to be actors or directors or producers, right? Getting a day rate is great, but if you have the chance to actually create IP, that's the kind of legacy that gives you some financial security in the future.
Which is the goal. One of the goals. One of the goals.
I want to do exactly what I want to do and be exactly as creative as I want, and I want to be rich.
I don't think that's too much to ask. Like, as long as we're doing it,
Mhm.
like, we should. I know. In an ideal world, we would all be paid well to do what we love to do well.
It's not. It's not. And you know what the funny thing is about here is the like the initiation haze that everyone seems to go through when they work for production companies or for studios. Like, you know, you can come out of like NYU, top of your class, and you don't get it to even touch an editing bay for your first year. Or like your first year is just like, what kind of coffee do you like, sir?
Right.
Yeah. It's just terrible.
Paying your dues.
Yeah, I mean the studio. I mean the agencies they still make their initial hires work in the mailroom. Like that's still a thing. Yeah, yeah. Someone one of my well, you know, it's funny because I did a conversation with a guy a couple weeks ago, and he started at one of the big agencies. I can't remember which one, WMECAA, whatever. And yeah, they started him in the mailroom, and he actually said like it was great because you got to know where everyone is, and you got to learn about what everyone did, and it kind of put your face in front of all these different people. And then when it comes time to graduate out of the mailroom, basically all these agents that kind of know you as the mail guy, they basically take a punt on you or take a gamble on you to take you into their team, whether it's like unscripted TV or you know writing or screenplays or whatever, and then you end up working in that silo of the agency, and then that's kind of how you get your start, and then you can jump around once you're in it, but that's your first kind of move up, and it was makes sense, I suppose. Yeah.
Get the lay of the land.
Soul destroying though.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But if it got, what is the trial by fire?
Yeah.
Okay, you made it through. Now you can join this guy's team.
And he's an asshole.
Right.
How, no, we don't know anything about agency people. So
No.
we have a few coming on though. Maybe towards the end of April, we do have some people who are in the representation business. So I'm very keen to learn a little bit more about that side of the business as well. Here's a question for you. Would you ever work full time as a writer for a studio or someone like that? Like if they bring you in and ask, to try to give you like a first look deal, like would that be, or are you like completely kind of addicted to your freedom? Yeah. Whatever pays the bills. Yeah.
I would totally do that. If they want to be like, here's this project, like it's not my project, but here's a project, write the script for this.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Because I feel like there's so much rewriting and rewriting of projects and stuff like that. And I know these studios do have like a lot of writers on hand that are on staff, like to fix problems, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'd work on my own shit too.
Yeah. I think that'd be like, because I feel like you're almost like a paramedic. Like, this project's come in and you've got to like fix it.
We need help.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm a writer. I can fix anything. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so you have a few shorts going into production. You've got a few things being written. You've got a second book coming out.
I signed a deal with the publisher of a children's book called Violet's Pretty Purple Playground.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and it's...
And you're wearing purple today.
My black shirt had a stain on it. I was like, oh shit. So at the last minute, like, blah, what am I going to wear? And I already had the purplish jewelry out, so I'm like, I'm wearing purple. But yeah, so Goldust Publishing in North Carolina is going to publish Violet's Pretty Purple Playground. We're getting an illustrator on board, and I guess it's happening this year.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. They sent it to an editor who had like a couple of minor notes. She's like, this is one of the best things that's ever come.
Oh, congratulations. That's exciting. Yeah.
Because I know, I was like, I don't know how much has come across her desk, but I imagine enough for her to say that, have it mean something. And she was just saying a tweet. She sent it to the publisher. So then he forwarded me the email. It's like, oh my, very excited. So that should be coming out this year too. And it's also the 5th anniversary of the publication of my first book, The Bleak Love Story. So I don't know if I'm going to do something about that. I don't know if I want to draw attention to that. Because I'm still getting reviews and stuff, because I self-published, but I sold 4,000 copies. So it's done really well. I've gotten rave reviews. And so I'm still like working on reviews and things like that, just keeping that out there. And so I don't know if I want to be like, it's 5 years old because, it's past its sell-by date kind of thing.
Right. I mean, how as a writer, how hard or easy is it to get someone to buy the screenplay option on a book?
No.
Yeah. That's something I've always been super strange about, because obviously, like, so you write a great children's book, right? And Netflix are in dire need of children's content, right? So they want to adapt your book into a screenplay, maybe keep you on board for the screenplay, maybe hire other screenplay professionals to prepare it. Maybe you're part of the process, maybe you're not. But I mean, like, how does that even work?
I think that they option the rights. And of course, there are agents too. Like if you have an agent and they get you to a publishing house like Random House or Simon & Schuster, whatever, they also have agents who focus specifically on film.
Yeah.
And selling it to Hollywood, essentially. Not every book's going to be. A lot of films are based on books. A lot. And so I think it's your agent has to.
Yeah. Because I know that there's a lot of studios and a lot of production companies that are kind of like, quote unquote, stockpiling IP, right? Like they'll buy the rights to books, and then they'll have a 2-year window to turn it into something. And if they don't turn it into something, they need to re-up it, or it becomes open market again, right? So there's a lot of people who are buying these rights for, $50,000, $100,000, and then they have 2-year window. And if they don't turn it into something, they have to give the rights back to the author to be resold. And I know that that's like a huge business out here, because everyone is just hunting IP. And it's funny because everyone's making fucking sequels and remakes of every movie we've ever watched. And it's frustrating. It was like, but there's so many original books out there. Like, just put Ryan Gosling in one of them and it'll be fine. Like, it doesn't have to be like Transformers 8.
Right.
Or the remaking of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or whatever the fuck's going on out here.
Mind remakes, redos, reboots necessarily, but there is a lot.
A lot. Yeah. I figure, what I feel is like this city during COVID coming out of COVID has become much more risk averse. Yeah.
Things have changed a lot since COVID and the strikes.
Yeah.
So it's nice keep hearing things are slow. So just, keep at it, because things will turn around at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting transition to see, like, and obviously this was a world I was never involved in much, because I was traveling like 300 days a year making TV. I was living in my own fucking world. As long as people kept buying my shows, I could stay out and do the thing. But now I've got way more time, and I'm in LA, and you're meeting all these people, and you're really understanding like what makes this town tick, how people make things, how people get things done, how people get things funded. And that whole process has really changed a lot from 2019 to 2024.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you can even see that difference, because it hasn't been that long, but a lot has.
Well, and because I'm doing this, I have access like to people like you who are, who aren't starting their career, who have been around the block, who know a lot of people who are working at a high level, and they have a lot of opinions about how things were before COVID, how things were after COVID, what things are going to look like moving forward. And it's been really like educational for me to get to learn like how stuff gets made. Yeah. Such a painful process.
Oh my God. It's just being on a set is exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, people have no idea what it takes to make a movie. And I don't even necessarily, I can't imagine some big, huge, monster or, spaceship kind of movie. Can't even imagine.
Yeah. Producing those would be just a nightmare. Yeah. I chatted with a producer last week, and she's like, yeah, it's it can be 12 months of absolute hell. But then, of course, when it all comes off and the movie gets to be screened and you see people in the audience crying and laughing, having all those rainbows of emotions, like it's all worthwhile. And those 18-hour days for 12 months straight where you want to kill yourself, somehow, yeah, it all ends up being super fulfilling.
Right.
Yeah. That's why we're here, right?
Absolutely. Well, just working on a book or a screenplay or something, just that.
Yeah.
Just that, quote unquote. But I mean, like, that process of that is also really fulfilling once you're done and once it's good and you're getting good feedback. But how long did it take? It took me 5 months to write the first version of Never Have I Ever, the one I'm working on now. And it's taking me about 2 to get through the second. That's also me not working on it every day necessarily. It's one of my primary focuses. But, I have a life, and, and I have jobs, and I have shit to do, and scripts to deal with. Oh, I got feedback on this. I have to fix this, and, we'll do whatever, and get to my writer's group. And so my point is...
And pour your soul out to me.
And pour your soul out to you, absolutely. There's hardly any soul left.
So how can people learn more about you and your work? Where's the place where people can go? Do you have a website or anything like that?
I do. It's just gone up. It's harkerjonesla.com.
Because we're in LA.
harkerjones.com is taken, goddammit.
Who the fuck did that?
I mean, I don't know. I imagine that people were just snapping up sites and they're like, oh, we'll sell it.
You're the only Harker Jones I've ever met.
When I Google myself, I'm the only person who comes. I don't Google myself every day. But, you know, when I have
7 times a day, starting before breakfast, I could Google myself to see. Yeah. Am I trending on X yet?
Well, yeah, I'm the only one that it comes up.
Yeah.
So anyway, people sat on that. Someone sat on that. So I'm harkerjonesla.com, but it's new. I still have to like do stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so focused on Never Have I Ever Draft 2 that that's backburnered, like next on the list. But I really need to get to this so I can get it to that. I'm on Twitter. If you look up Harker Jones, I come up. Hirker is not Parker with a P.
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram. I'm kind of on TikTok, but I have so many photos on my phone, I have to delete them to take them, which means I keep deleting apps, which means I haven't been on TikTok for a while because I don't have space.
That is a long-winded version of why you hate TikTok.
I don't like TikTok because when you go to the app, it would just start playing immediately.
Yeah, I hate that too, yeah.
Like, no. You wait till I choose something.
I'm in control, damn it.
God, there'd be noise. I would be out doing whatever. I'm like, I'm in line, and well, why is my phone making noise now? Anyway, I did do TikTok for a little.
I can't handle just watching people dance all the time. Like, it's just too happy. I don't have that in my soul. I'm not like a dark soul, but I'm just not someone who wants to fucking dance all the time or someone who wants to watch people dance.
No, I mean, maybe go look how cute.
All the time? My whole Instagram feed is cats, by the way, so I do have that issue, yeah.
I gave our cat an Instagram feed too,
No.
but I hardly have a post. There's just so much going on.
There is.
My book is until September.
Yep. Oh, we've got it here. Until September. Harker Jones. Oh, all love stories are dark, even if they're positive, right? There's no happy endings out there. It's all mystery and intrigue. Yeah. So harkerjonesla.com. You're on X and Twitter, Facebook, etc. You've got until September. And what are your 2 shorts that are already out in the world?
It's called One Hit Wonder. That's on Vimeo. And the other is called Cole and Colette. It's a terrible title. We couldn't, whatever. Cole and Colette, that is on YouTube. It's best to look me up because Cole and Colette is generic enough that.
So just Harker Jones and you'll find everything you need to find.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Well, look, I really appreciate you swinging by. Like, you know, we connected a couple of weeks ago and you were just like, I'm in LA, let's do it. And I just appreciate that fucking, yeah, let's just catch up and talk. And it's been so easy. I'm really thankful for that.
Thanks for having me. It has been really comfortable. And I was glad you were in LA. I'm like, okay, I shoot here in my place. It's kind of like, oh no, but it's LA.
It's great. Like, I refuse to do, this actually pisses a lot of people off, is I refuse to do remote conversations like podcasts. And I don't even like calling them podcasts or interviews because, like, we're just chatting, right? Like, we're just 2 guys yeah. And this one person, like, I'm like, I only do face-to-face conversations in my studio in LA because I feel like I want to really get to know someone. And I want to look someone in the eye, shake their fucking hand, and be like, I just made a friend. We just had a great 2-hour conversation or whatever. And like, that's someone that I know now, right? But when if there's a screen in front of you, you're still so disconnected. And I feel like the conversation's not as good, the experience isn't as good, and then you don't end up with a friend at the end of it. Yeah.
You haven't.
No, not at all. And someone's like, oh, it's 2024. Don't you have a fucking Zoom or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the experience I want to have.
Right.
And that's not what I want to show everyone else.
And it's your show.
And there's millions of fucking podcasts. So find another.
Right.
No, but I am thankful. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming out. You're fighting the good fight. You're writing. You're pouring your soul out into the world and to entertain us all. And I'm super thankful for that.
Thank you for having me. If you ever want to go to the theater, let me know.
Yeah, I would love that. I'll catch up with you offline about that.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Okay, so now we go to the wide where we are here and we can shake hands. Great to fucking meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
New friend.
And now we fade to black. Look at all this production quality. And we're done.